Congratulations, you finally did it. You made the time for a pilgrimage to Sedona, Arizona, one of the mountain biking meccas in the United States. However, as you reached out for advice on what trails to ride, everyone suggests the same trails, Hiline, Hangover, or the Hogs. The only problem is you are more of an intermediate rider and you want to have fun, so you'd rather not risk killing yourself on your first trip to Sedona, right? Thanks for checking out my channel. I'm Mike, and this is Mike and Bikes. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons if you find this information useful, or if you'd like to see more videos like it. With that out of the way, let's talk Sedona mountain biking. It's a really common question I hear. I'm headed to Sedona for the first time. I'm an intermediate rider. What trail should I ride? Well, good news. I have the answers you're looking for, but first, a couple of points to keep in mind. Number one, now, rest assured, it's pretty hard to find a bad ride in Sedona. Pretty much any ride is going to be fun and will provide some hard pack, slick rock, a little techy up and down, maybe a little bit of chunk, and you'll very likely get some amazing views. So if I don't happen to mention the same ride that someone else mentioned to you, don't worry about it. It just means that there's too much to include and both rides are probably really great. Number two, I found the ratings on the Trailfork app to be really pretty much spot on. So if you're going for a once a year or a once in a lifetime ride in Sedona, the mecca of mountain biking, you may want to plunk down the cash for the Trailforks app. It'll really help you out. I don't have any sponsors, so I'm not getting paid for this promotion of Trailforks, but it's really helped me as I've been in Sedona. Number three, rather than thinking of terms of making sure you do the best trail, think about riding in areas. Many of the blue trails, the intermediate trails, are short and they need to be connected to other trails to make for a really fun loop. So instead of showing you the most amazing intermediate trail, I'm going to show you an area to check out, or a couple of areas, and you can decide how many miles of trails you want to connect together for the best ride. Okay, so with that background, let's jump in. I've highlighted 4 areas that will cover about 80% of the intermediate trails. Any of these are going to be great areas to explore. They're all going to provide probably a couple hours worth at least of riding, 15 plus miles with a lot of flow, great views, just generally a good mix of riding. Okay, so with that, the first area to highlight I'll call Boynton Canyon area. You can park at the Boynton Canyon trailhead, or there are several parking areas along Boynton Pass Road. Some of the more popular trails in this area are going to be Chuckwagon, Aerie, and Cockscomb. So those are very popular and fun trails. One of my favorite intermediate quick loops is actually Dead Man's Pass to Long Canyon. Long Canyon is only a green, but it's really fun and fast if ridden kind of in the south direction. And then coming back on Mescal, which is rated as a black, but it has some fun slick rock, and probably 70% of it is really more of intermediate riding. You can also make fun longer loops with Cockscombs and Aerie, or add on Chuckwagon as well. The views are best if you're headed north and east, and from most trails you're going to have some point where you can get some really great views. All of these have good views at some point. Most of the trails are going to be hard packed with sections of maybe some small rocky patches, and the most technical of these blues is probably Chuckwagon, with lower Aerie being the least technical of them. Okay, moving on to the second section, I'll refer to this as the Cultural Park area, which is where you park at the Cultural Park parking area. So one of the main draws for me about this area is it tends to be less crowded than any of the other areas, but keep in mind, Sedona is going to get crowded most weekends. The most popular trails here are going to be Axis, Girdner, and Outer Limits. For some really great views, you could actually tack on Ground Control. It's rated as a black, but again, it's probably 60 to 70% is blue, with just a small percentage of it being black that can be walked. And again, you do it because you get some really great views at the top, and it is fun riding. On the blue trails, the best views are probably from Axis, while Outer Limit is going to give you a look out to the west, which isn't going to be any of the red rock views. It's more of a kind of a desert landscape, but the trail is really fun. Trails here are mostly hard packed without any significant slick rock to speak of. There will be some decent flow, not a ton of downhill either. It's a cross-country riding area, short ups and downs, and a little bit of tech. If you venture just across the road from the cultural park, you'll find the high school area. The area is probably more fun with a shuttle because at the high school, most of the trails flow down and they drop you off at the bottom of the hill at Chavez Ranch Road. The Of course, you can ride back up, but if you had a shuttle, you could quickly ride Pyramid, Herkenham, Skywalker, and Old Post. Now, the climb isn't awful, so even without a shuttle, I generally make a couple of trips on a day. If you don't have a shuttle, Old Post is most commonly used as the uphill direction, and Pyramid and Herkenham are really fun downhill, so I'd suggest doing those in the downhill direction. The riding here is going to be mostly hard packed, but you will find quite a bit of chunk on the downhills as well. If you're looking for something with a little more challenge, there's a black trail called the Ridge, and the downhill on the Ridge is super fun. It's going to have more slick rock. They've got an area of slick rock you can just kind of play around with some of the drops and stuff like that. And then it has some really techy drops you're going to want to be careful on if you are an intermediate rider, but those can be walked. Best view here is probably going to be from the top of Skywalker, and riding that in the sort of east-south direction, you'll get almost a 360-degree view at the top of Skywalker. Really pretty. That brings us to the final area, which is Bell Rock. Now, I generally avoid Bell Rock simply because I don't like a lot of people, and parking can be a nightmare in this area. It is the first trail you encounter as you're pulling into Sedona, and so a lot of people stop here, and the trail just gets, the first part of the trail and the parking area just gets a little bit nuts. But if you venture out just a little ways, about a mile or so from the trailheads, and the further you get from the main Bell Rock Trail, the crowds will thin out pretty quickly. Big Park Loop is hard-packed and fast and flowy, while Rabbit Ears and Little Rock Loop are going to be more technical and, in my opinion, more fun. These are newer trails. Rabbit Ears and Little Rock are new trails, so they ride like a little bit newer trails. They're not as packed. The dirt's a little bit looser. I think it's a really fun ride. These rides are going to take you along Bell Rock and Courthouse, so your reviews are going to be pretty great. Now, on the other side of Courthouse, you're going to find Llama, which I believe is the funnest and most technical of the blue trails in this area. Llama will be a great indicator of whether you're ready to take on some of the more difficult trails or maybe hit some of the black trails in the area. All right, that's my advice for you intermediate riders heading to Sedona. Don't stress about finding the perfect trail. All the blue trails are a lot of fun. They all have great views and they all offer a variety of challenges. If you have any questions or comments about this video, please feel free to add those below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great time in Sedona, and perhaps we'll see you on the trail. See ya.